A Palestinian terrorist was shot and wounded this morning after a stabbing attack at a checkpoint in an outlying Jerusalem neighborhood. There were no other reports of injuries in the incident that took place near the residential Har Huma neighborhood in Jerusalem on the road to the Etzion block in Judea. The police said the 47-year-old suspect is from the Bethlehem area. He walked up to the Mizmoriah checkpoint and pulled out a knife, attempting to attack border police officers. A border police officer spotted the attacker, opened fire precisely, and neutralized him. The suspect is under police custody in the hospital. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has embarked on his trip to the United States. The prevention of Iranian nuclear weaponization and advancement of a potential Israel-Saudi normalization deal are topping his agenda. During the visit, Netanyahu will address the UN General Assembly and will meet U.S. President Biden and other world leaders. Tonight, Netanyahu starts his U.S. visit in California, meeting at this hour with tycoon Elon Musk. More from ILTV's Steve Leibovitz.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has arrived in the U.S. for several days of meetings. Netanyahu first flew to California, where he is meeting this evening with Elon Musk, owner of Tesla, SpaceX, and the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. Netanyahu will also meet with other high-tech leaders for discussions on artificial intelligence technologies. Netanyahu's meeting with Musk will also reportedly include the subjects of judicial reform and anti-Semitism. Musk and the ADL have been feuding about online anti-Semitic content. Musk reportedly wants to use the Netanyahu meeting to stave off mounting criticism on the free speech issue. Netanyahu wants Musk to invest in Israeli AI and other high-tech.
אני מתכוון לפגוש שם איש שמוביל כרגע את ההתפתחות הדרמטית ביותר בטכנולוגיה האנושית בזמן החדש ואולי בכלל, את אילון מאסק. אני אדון איתו על נושא הבינה המלאכותית וגם אפעל כדי שישקיע במדינת ישראל בשנים הקרובות. האיש הזה במידה רבה מפלס את הדרך שתשנה את פני האנושות
Netanyahu will later travel to New York. He's due to meet President Biden on Thursday on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly. During his stay in New York, Netanyahu will also meet Ukrainian President Zelensky, Turkish President Erdogan, and other world leaders. The Prime Minister will address the General Assembly on Friday and return to Israel on Sunday, just ahead of the Yom Kippur fast.
Experience the power of truth with ILTV News. If you're looking for quality content and captivating visuals, join our news community and become an integral part of our team as we embark on a mission to unveil the real Israel, dismantling the web of lies and misinformation that surround reporting on Israel. By subscribing to ILTV News, you will not only have access to the latest updates, but you will also amplify our message, creating a ripple effect that carries the truth far and wide. Subscribe today and help reshape the narrative. Available on the web, Android, and Apple. And joining us now with more on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the United States is Ambassador Yoram Ettinger. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So a lot of meetings on the agenda for the Prime Minister. First and foremost, the much-anticipated meeting with U.S. President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly. This has been a long time coming. I mean, what does Netanyahu hope to finally get out of this meeting?
Well, I don't belong to Prime Minister Netanyahu's staff. I can only share with you what I hope. I hope that the Prime Minister will highlight the two most important issues, namely Iran's Ayatollahs and the Palestinian issue, both of which are connected to a prospective agreement with Saudi Arabia. However, I hope that the Prime Minister will highlight the American rather than the Israeli angle, namely sharing with President Biden the facts that a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River would doom the pro-American Hashemite regime east of the river, would transform Jordan into another arena for anti-American Islamic terrorists. In the process, would create a ripple effect into the Arabian Peninsula, threatening every single pro-American oil-producing Arab regime, which would be a major problem for America's economy and national security. Israeli control, on the other hand, of the mountain ridges of Judea, Samaria, does minimize instability in the Middle East, deters terrorism, deters wars, and advances America's interest. And at the same time, I hope that the Prime Minister is going to highlight the fact, to underscore the fact that Iran's Ayatollahs are not partners for negotiation. As documented by the last 43 years, they should be a target for regime change. Any negotiation with the Ayatollahs has proven to bolster anti-American global terrorism, anti-American drug trafficking, and anti-American proliferation of ballistic technologies. And last and not least, the Saudi agreement with Israel, whether further normalization or full peace accord, once again plays well in the Middle East, advancing American interest, but not at the expense of Israel's national security. A very critical error by Israel could be to trade off national security in Judea and Samaria for an accord with Saudi Arabia. The Saudis have never been driven by the Palestinian issue. That's the reason they played the most critical role in bringing about, producing the accords, peace accords between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, Israel and Bahrain, Israel and Morocco. The Saudis are not going to sacrifice their own national interest on the altar of the Palestinians, and at the same time...
I just want to ask you, though, because, the question is if U.S. President Joe Biden will be open to hearing all of this, because there has been a lot of tension between the two leaders this past year. Do you anticipate that this meeting will finally break the ice, so to speak? Will we see a warming of relations? There are still quite a few differences between the two, especially when it comes to Iran, as you mentioned. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
The chance of changing, even minimally, the position of Secretary Tony Blinken, who sets the tone, the content of America's national security and foreign policy, the chance of changing his position, which means Biden's position, which means position of the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, are anywhere between zilch and none. The state of mind of Secretary of State Tony Blinken has been there well entrenched for the last few decades. He firmly believes in the diplomatic option, which has been proven to be self-destructive as far as America's own interest. There is, however, an open-mindedness among most of American legislators, House and Senate, among many in the American media. And it seems to me that briefing them by the Prime Minister on the realities of the Middle East, rather than the alternative reality presented by the Secretary of State, would do well for America, for Israel, and for Saudi Arabia.
All right, Ambassador Yoram Ettinger, thank you so much for your analysis today. And we, of course, will keep an eye on the Prime Minister's visit to the United States. Thank you. And while the past year has seen strides and renewed hope over the prospect of peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, a new report now claims that Riyadh has informed the United States that it is freezing all normalization talks. The details in the following report. A report from the Elaf online Arabic news site has cited an unnamed Israeli official in the Prime Minister's office on Sunday as saying that Saudi Arabia has informed the Biden administration that it is freezing all talks over normalizing ties with Israel. According to the report, the official pointed out that the opposition by the current coalition to any gesture towards the Palestinians means torpedoing any possibility of rapprochement with Palestinians and thus with the Saudis. The official was also cited as saying that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's acceptance of the demands by his coalition partners, specifically Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, which the Saudis view as extreme right, also serves as an impediment to normalization. As such, the report states that the Israeli official confirmed that the United States informed Israel of Saudi Arabia's decision to stop any discussion with the Americans regarding normalization or taking any step towards Israel, adding that the Israeli leadership is confused about it. Just last week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in an interview with Pod Save the World, a popular podcast, that it was clear from the Saudis that for the normalization process to move forward, the Palestinian peace was going to be a very important part of it. Yet Israeli officials have largely dismissed this demand, with Foreign Minister Eli Cohen telling Elaf last month that the Palestinian issue would not be an obstacle to peace. So far, the report remains unconfirmed, but as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden this week, the issue of Saudi normalization will certainly take center stage.